أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب زدني علما رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير ثم أما بعد الحمد لله to you all السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Can I request you brothers to come a bit closer so that I can see that you're a part of us and we're a part of you. And if you ask any questions, I can hear you properly. And if you want to lean, there are also leaning chairs in the stockroom. You can help yourself to one, lean on it, and then use it, and then put it back into the stockroom after you're done, inshallah, which is just there, or Nabil can guide you to that. There is a lost, is that your phone? Alaikum salam. Inshallah, today we carry on with our series of Islamic studies, and this is specifically a course of the marriage rules. And in our past, I think 4 classes, or is it 5 we covered some key important topics which have a lot of questions around them, a lot of controversy, a lot of misunderstandings often. And we said from the beginning that this is a series which is going to focus on these areas as opposed to being a thorough fiqh of marriage course which we done before, and alhamdulillah which we covered, and it's available on our YouTube channel for you to reference, bi'idhnillah. Last week we spoke about, one of the things that we spoke about was the different hukum shar'i that can be applicable to talaq. We know that nikah can be wajib for someone, sunnah for someone, can be mubah for someone, can be makruh for someone, and can even be haram for some people. Nikah can be. So in a similar way, on the other side, talaq may well be forbidden, as in makruh, disliked, which may be applicable with sin if someone is issuing this talaq for no reason whatsoever, with an intention to harm the spouse. Okay? Or the talaq may well be mubah, or it may well be encouraged. Talaq sometimes can be encouraged. Why? Because it is going to assist you in staying away from sin. Because certain marriages, certain marriage contracts, certain spouses are inviting and calling and pressuring their spouses towards haram. Okay, talaq has these rules, hukum shar'i, that we've spoken about before. That of course was after our introduction about why talaq was first of all legislated, and the hikmah behind it, and the background behind it. And we spoke about the hadith which we've mentioned the dha'af in the sanad, but there are various asanid and various hadith to the effect of saying, which makes the meaning correct, that talaq is, though it is jaiz, it is the most disliked thing in our sharia, because Allah doesn't want us to get married for the sake of divorce, and Allah doesn't want marriages to happen in the sense that Allah doesn't encourage it. Okay, Allah doesn't encourage that we should become that talaq should become the norm. Rather, the purpose and the encouragement from Allah and His Rasul, from the Quran and the Sunnah, is that marriage should be the means of finding sakina, لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً, and it is a way of finding stillness, calm and comfort, and etc. And so talaq is a last resort, as we said. Yeah, talaq is like the medicine. Okay, it's not something that you resort to quickly. It's something that's a last resort that one may have to resort to. In our discussion today, bi'idhnillah, I want to talk about talaq raj'i. Talaq is 3 types. Talaq is 3 types. One is raj'i, and raj'i is from raja'a, is to return. Meaning, this is a talaq from which you can return. Meaning, you can carry on with your marriage afterwards. How? We'll explain. Then there is talaq ba'in. Ba'in comes from bana yabin, to become separated. Ibana, to become separated, disconnected. So a talaq ba'in is a talaq from which it is not easy to return. Okay? From ba'in there are 2 types: sughra, small, and kubra. So ba'in sughra is a separated talaq from which it's not so easy to return, but because it's sughra, there are conditions which if you fulfill, you may be able to remarry the same woman. However, the kubra, the big separation, refers to that talaq which you cannot come back to marriage after it. You can't marry the same woman again until she marries another man, and that marriage ends naturally either by death of that spouse or talaq from that spouse. So therefore, talaq is three types. Raj'i, revocable. You can return from it. Raja'a yarja', you can come back. To mend that divorce is quite easy. It's very easy in fact. Then we have talaq ba'in sughra, small separation. And then we have ba'in baynuna kubra, which is the big separation after which there is no return. And that ba'in baynuna kubra, the third one, is referring to the 3 talaq. When someone gives 3 talaqs, that means this marriage cannot be repaired anymore. And if they wanted to reconnect, then they would have to follow which Allah dictates and specifies in the Quran. الطلاق مرتان فإمساك بمعروف أو تسريح بإحسان. The talaq is 2 times. If after these 2 times you decide فإمساك بمعروف, that you either hold your wife and keep her with you in marriage properly بمعروف, أو تسريح بإحسان, or you let her go with ihsan, with good treatment, with kindness. Okay? And then Allah says, فَإِن طَلَّقَهَا, then if after these 2 talaqs he give another talaq, فَلَا تَحِلُّ لَهُ مِن بَعْدُ حَتَّى تَنْكِحَ زَوْجًا غَيْرَهُ. In Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah says, after these 2 talaqs, if he gives a 3rd talaq, the 3rd talaq, فَإِن طَلَّقَهَا, one more time, فَلَا تَحِلُّ لَهُ, then she will never be halal for him, حَتَّى تَنْكِحَ زَوْجًا غَيْرَهُ, until she marries another man, and that marriage ends naturally. It can't be planned. It can't be what they refer to even in English language as halala marriage or muhallil and muhallil lahu and halala. Some people, what they do is, we'll come to that inshallah afterwards anyway, but it came to my tongue so I'll say it. Some people, they try to scam and cheat the system. They divorce their wife 3 times and then they regret it. So what do they say? I want to get back to my wife. So what do? They go and hire a man. Say, listen mate, I'm going to pay you to marry my wife and to spend the night with her. Can you imagine the level of fitna and problem he's put himself in? His own wife, he's having to pay someone else to go and marry his own wife, to spend some time with her so that the marriage is fully consummated. And then the main condition is, oh Mr. Muhallil, oh the one that I'm hiring, is that you must divorce her. So it's all pre-planned so that he can, with a token presentation, or just like to make it seem like another marriage happened, he can get married to his wife again. But ya akhi, why did you put yourself in this situation first? If you want to keep your wife, then why did you give her talaq so in such a hasty way? You should have waited. You should have done istishara, seek guidance from Allah, seek guidance from ahl al-dhikr, the people of ilm and aimma and mashayikh. That's what istishara means, to do mashwara. But no. You want to be a big man. You want to show your big power. And like we said, some people see talaq as 3 bullets in a pistol. They shoot it out all in one go and then they regret it. This kind of muhallil, the Prophet ﷺ has cursed them. Allah has cursed the one who tries to do muhallil or halala marriage like that. The one who's doing it, who's being hired, and the one who is being done for, i.e. the husband that hired some other guy to go and marry his wife and then divorce after. But guess what? The tragedy of all tragedies in these situations is that a lot of the times when the husband goes and hires this guy to marry his wife and to divorce, guess what happens? The guy takes the fee and then doesn't divorce the wife. So he lost everything. Because he's like, you know what? I quite like this marriage. So he carries on. So the fa'idah is, the shahid is, it's not a laughing matter, it's very serious. Because the point is laughing because you shouldn't put yourself in that situation in the first place. And then you shouldn't try to cheat the system. Because one of the very important things that we learn in Islamic contracts is that when you make a contract, it's not necessarily about the words, it's about the meaning of the words. Does that make sense? So what they've done in this situation is that they've just written a contract and it seems like they fulfilled the contract. But have they fulfilled the meaning of the contract? The meaning of contract is that marriage is supposed to be for permanent, isn't it? The meaning of the contract is that marriage is supposed to be permanent. Now, when your intention is you're getting a guy for temporary, then is that marriage even valid? Because you're doing short-term marriage, isn't it? So therefore, even though the wording may appear to be correct, but the meaning of the marriage is incorrect. Okay? And that's why the Ahlul Qawa'id and Ahlul Usul, they say, Al-ibratu bil-ma'ani, laysa bil-alfadhi wal-mabani. In contracts, what's taken into consideration is the meaning of the contract, not the words and the construction of the sentences. Because sometimes if you speak and write in a smart way, in a clever, sly way, you try to cheat the legal system, it's not going to work like that. Now, I don't know how we ended up in third talaq, because we're still in raj'i here. So let's start from the top. And I know there's a big topic right now. Everyone's thinking and everyone's talking about this big topic of misyar marriage. Everyone's talking about it online now. I'm not going to go into that because I don't entertain these kind of sort of algorithm wars. I'm not interested in this stuff. This so-called da'wah scene beef, which people often try to ride the wave of to become relevant. But alhamdulillah, we try to keep it consistent. We are trying to teach a course here and not to ride any particular algorithm wave to become quick, random, famous, and then just the way you go up, same way you go down. The higher and the faster you go up, the faster you go down as well. May Allah protect us all. Ameen Rabbil Alameen. Misyar marriage is a separate topic which we will not come to in this course. We're talking about normal marriages here, okay? Right, so talaq, raj'i. So what is a raj'i? Let's come and understand what is a raj'i. A raj'i talaq is where, ideally, if a man decides and if the family decide they have to go their own ways, then one talaq will be issued with the correct wording. And it will be issued, ideally, at a time which is allowed according to the sunnah, which is that when the woman is not in her monthly hayd, or she is not in her postnatal nifas. So talaq raj'i, the one that is jaiz according to sunnah, is that a man calculated, proper, thoroughly thought it through, done istikhara and said, you know what, this is the right decision for my life. I need to move away from this marriage. What he does is, we're talking about talaq, we're not talking about fasakh and khula', we'll come to that afterwards because that's from the woman's side instigated. But from the man's side it's called talaq. He decides that this marriage cannot be no longer maintained, it doesn't make any sense, it's making me go mad, or it's bad for my deen and dunya, right? So then this is how it should be done. The talaq should be done in this way, if it is to be done. I'm not saying that it should be done. If it is to be done, it should be done. That's this way. That it should be done in the time of the month where the woman is not in her period. And in this same time, same tuhur, this pure cycle, so women have hayd, as you know, menstrual cycle for about 7 days, 10 days. So about a week. That means for the rest of the month, 3 weeks, they're not in menstrual cycle. So the talaq should be issued in one of these 3 weeks. Furthermore, there's another level to this sunnah, which is that you cannot have had intercourse in this tuhur. Does that make sense? So what that means is, if you decide that you must give talaq, you don't wait for the spouse to finish her hayd, and then you don't have intimacy and then say, I'll give you talaq. No. First of all, you wait that she's not in her hayd, because this is additional difficulty. There's additional difficulty, and it's against the sunnah. It's called bid'i. It's against the sunnah to give talaq to a woman when she's already in her menstrual cycle. It's also against the sunnah to give talaq to a woman in a purity period, in those 3 weeks, in which she had intercourse. It should be in a phase in which you had no intercourse. Why is that? Because again, there is ikhtilaf between the scholars. The Shafi'is and the Hanbalis see that the waiting period for a woman is 3 cycles of pure days. 3 cycles of the days in which she is pure in the month, pure as in not in her hayd. Okay, I should find a better word because someone can take it out of context. 3 cycles in which she is allowed to pray. Let's put it that way, okay? So now, if someone decides to have intimacy with the woman in these days in which she is allowed to pray, and then divorce afterwards, and you have elongated and made her iddah period even longer. It's probably going over your head. It's a bit complicated. But the point is, to make it simple, Raj'i talaq is the talaq which you can come back from easily. What happens? A man says to his wife that I divorce you. I divorce you. I give you talaq. I give you divorce. This kind of language is called sarih, clear. There's no possibility of other interpretation. If someone says I divorce you, does it mean I marry you? Doesn't mean let me go and buy you PFC. It means I divorce you, means I divorce you. The language is clean and clear. That's called sarih. However, if he says go back to your family and don't come back, go back to your mom's house and your dad's house and don't come back, and he intends with it divorce, is that talaq clear or unclear? That's called kinaya, meaning it's indirect. So we're opening up a lot of different chapters here. We'll come to one by one, inshallah. So the talaq raj'i is the talaq in which the man, after doing istikhara and istishara, after having decided, decides to give a talaq to his wife, who is of course married to. You don't give a talaq to a random woman that you're married to. You don't walk around the street and say, I'll give a talaq, because you're not married to them. You can't do that. It'd be crazy. So give a talaq to a woman that he's married to, outside of her monthly cycle, in the days in which she's allowed to pray, in a cycle in which she has not had intercourse, and he gives a clean, pure, or clean and direct talaq saying, I divorce you. In a clear way like this. This is called, this one utterance, I give you talaq once, or I give you one talaq, specifying one, is called a raj'i talaq. Meaning it can be revocable, reversible, very easily. Does that make sense? Now let's change some bits about to make it not raj'i and make it ba'in. If he says to salam, if he says to his wife, go back to your wife, go back to your family, and I never want to see you again. You are, he emphasizes his dislike and distaste and not wanting his wife ever again. Then this raj'i talaq can become ba'in, can be one of those talaq which you cannot come back from easily. Yes, Ustad? Yes, inshallah. Inshallah, will be done soon anyway. So I'm trying to describe to you the talaq which is easy to repair, the raj'i talaq. Have you understood it so far, yeah? Outside of hayd, in the days in which she is praying, but not in the cycle in which there's been intimacy, no. He gives a clear, simple, understandable talaq, which is not excessively emphasized, expressing hatred and distaste and never to want to be with that person again, because that can become, because of the wording, can become ba'in, can become the next level up. I divorce you. Go back to your family, and intends divorce. This talaq is called a raj'i talaq, a revocable, a reversible talaq. And ideally, as bad as talaq is, this is the best talaq. As bad as talaq is, this is the best talaq. Why? Because it's reversible. It's revocable. You can reconsider. You can go back and reunite with your family. How so? Suppose now, after doing istikhara, istishara, and making sure of all the variables I've described now, the man then decides, and the couple decide, Ya Allah, we've made a mistake. In fact, we want to be together. We want to be together. We don't want to break our marriage. Then guess what they have to do? Let's take some guesses. What do they have to do? They have to get married again. Okay, anything else? Any other opinions on this? What do they have to do to reunite? Yeah? Okay, so married again, you've said that. Any other opinions on this? Ustad Shajjul, you were there in the previous course? Raj'i. Yes, very good. So if it's raj'i, it's very simple. Okay? Because he said, I don't want you, I divorce you. If he wants to reverse it, all he has to say to his wife is, Khalas, I want you back. Or all he has to do is kiss her affectionately. Or all he has to do is that they have intimacy. This breaks their talaq. Now, one more very important thing about talaq is, after the talaq, the woman does not go back to, or doesn't go anywhere. She stays with her husband. Listen to this, O Shabab. Listen to this, O Shabbat, O young sisters, O young brothers out there. It has become very, very common practice. The moment couple have an argument, they separate and become far from each other. This opens the window of shaitan. This opens the window of wiswas. Whereas Islam says, even if divorce has happened, you should remain in the same house unless it's a talaq ba'in or the iddah has finished. You should remain together, even though they may have issued talaq, you should remain in the same house. Why? Because Allah says in the Quran, لَعَلَّ اللَّهَ يُحْدِثُ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ أَمْرًا. Because something may happen after that. What does that mean? Heart may change. The spark of love may reignite. And they might decide, you know what? No. And Allah said in the Quran, وَبُعُولَتُهُنَّ أَحَقُّ بِرَدِّهِنَّ. The spouse has the biggest right to take his wife back. Or the wife has the biggest right to go back with the husband. So Islam wants, first of all, to be with your spouse and avoid divorce. And even if you divorce, Islam says make it raj'i, make it revocable, make it easy, don't make it too harsh. And even if you divorce raj'i, Islam says wait, stay together for a bit more time until the iddah finishes, so that perhaps you may reunite in marriage. Do you see how many layers of protection, security policies Islam has put together so that the family unit may remain united and strong and married? So far from what others assume and what may think that Islam, you just get married and you get divorced and you go again and you go nikah shopping. Some people think nikah, nikah is so much, go nikah shopping, I go marry, I don't like, I go along, I divorce. Wallah, it's not like that. Our religion is about taking care of our basic needs. We need to eat, we eat. We need to drink, we drink. We need to use the bathroom, we use the bathroom. We need to marry, it's a basic need. A need for companionship, a need for love, a need for intimacy. We fulfill that need and khalas, now we focus on what's more important, which is getting close to Allah. Does that make sense? The marriage is not supposed to be the end goal of your life. Your social life, your family life, your financial life, your physical. This is not supposed to be the end goal of your life. Your end goal of your life, Allah said in the Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. You've been made for ibadah. These are necessities, needs, steps of life you take care of, and you try to, khalas, it's in a good stage, now you focus on the bigger issue, which is to get close to Allah. Do ibadah of Allah. Focus on your salah, focus on your dhikr, focus on your tilawah, focus on serving others, being of service to humanity, struggling for the path of Allah, to defend the oppressed, and so on. Why do I say this? Because many people make some issue of their life the only issue in their life. Some people think my life is all about making money, nothing else. I don't care about no one else, nothing else. My life is all about my friends. My friends, I'm going to chill with them day and night. And then something happens to you one day and you need the help, but then nowhere to be found. Your friends will never care more about you than your parents and your family. Don't get that twisted, mate. You might be chilling in the street corners for hours and weeks on end. When push comes to shove, it's the love and the kith and the kin that come to your rescue. So don't make these things are not supposed to be a distraction from Allah. Allah says, إِنَّ مِنْ أَمْوَالِكُمْ وَأَوْلَادِكُمْ عَدُوًّا لَكُمْ فَاحْذَرُوهُ. That indeed there can be from your wealth and from your spouse an enemy for you in that they distract you from Allah. إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةٌ. Your property and your wallet and your children can become a fitna if they distract you from the remembrance of Allah. So the point is, marriage is supposed to be something that we find comfort, peace in, happiness, love and joy in. It's a means of the continuation of humanity in the best of ways. And then we are supposed to focus on other things. And that's why Islam has put so many protocols in place to ensure that the marriage is retained. Look from the beginning of the stages. We've said Islam says that look for X, Y and Z in your spouse and give priority to khuluq and deen, so that your marriage will be long lasting. That's the main reason. Your marriage will be long lasting and together you get closer to Allah. Then Islam says, look at her, see her, you see him, so that فَإِنَّهُ أَحْرَى أَن يُؤْدَمَ بَيْنَهُمَا, so that love can be built so that you can remain together, not so you can fight and be separated. So second layer of. Then Islam says get your families involved. Make sure the kafa'a is there, suitability is there, so that you stay together. It's not a temporary matter. Get your families involved. The wali must be involved. The wali of the bride must be involved. Right? Then there is the khitbah, the proposal. Then we get the people of the community together. Then you get the shahidain, the two witnesses, which are responsible and reliable. Then you get the mahar. Then you get the wali to be present and consent to the nikah. Then we do ishhar, which is that you make it famous and let everybody know. Then you make it in the masjid, so it's known and it's blessed. And the hadith also says that there should be announcement, ishar, and even with daf if need be. Which is daf, which is the halal type of daf. That's allowed in the sunnah. أَعْلِنُوا النِّكَاحِ وَلَوْ بِالدُّفُوفِ, as the hadith says. So all of these are securities put into place by Islam so that the marriage can, why? To be retained, isn't it? So all of these, subhanAllah, and even after talaq, the raj'i, Islam is saying now, hold on. So raj'i, in summary after this big introduction, is the talaq from which you can be reunited very easily, simply by saying we would like to continue with our marriage, or by insinuating it by physical touch, contact, or intimacy. So therefore, what's the evidence for this? Let's quickly. Allah said in the Quran, وَالْمُطَلَّقَاتُ يُتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ ثَلَاثَةَ قُرُوءٍ وَبُعُولَتُهُنَّ أَحَقُّ بِرَدِّهِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ إِنْ أَرَادُوا إِصْلَاحًا. Okay? So after a raj'i talaq, there are certain things which are to be noted, which remain the same. Hold on. Pages are messed up, subhanAllah. It's all disorganized in this particular booklet. Okay. Now, we've gone too far here. Oh my goodness me, Bismillah. Rabbi yassir. 1 second. Sabran. Okay, here we go. If a talaq raj'i does occur, then how does it look afterwards? First of all, we said that if it's a revocable, reversible talaq, then first of all, you can return back to your marriage by qawl or by fi'l. Easily. The second ruling is, because it's only one talaq raj'i, it is possible for the husband to issue another talaq. That's a technical matter. Number 3. While the talaq raj'i has occurred, is the marriage broken completely or is it still connected? Is it still connected or is it broken completely? It's still connected. That's why you can easily go back to it. So that's why. If in this time of iddah, the 3 months after the talaq, if the husband does die, does his wife inherit from him? Does she inherit from him? We just said the marriage is still connected, so does she inherit from him? She inherits from him. What about if it's after the iddah? Does she inherit from him? No, because the marriage is separated. So one of the rulings of raj'i talaq is that because the marriage, the surface of it, the base of it is still there, you can easily go back to it, and you're still in your iddah, you're still together, technically speaking. If the husband passes away, then the wife will fully inherit from him as if they were, because they are really, as if they were still married. Number 3. Number 4, sometimes at the time of nikah, the mahar is separated into 2 parts. Muqaddam, I'll pay something now, and muakhar, deferred and delayed. That's allowed. Or sometimes all of it may be delayed. Okay, that is that Nabil, for example, says, MashaAllah, tabarakallah, I want to get married. And he finds himself a nice, MashaAllah, suitable spouse. MashaAllah. And then he says, Ya Allah, I really want to get married to this woman, but I don't have any mahar to give. Or I have only half of it. I only have 1,000 pounds and she wants 2,000, for example. So he says, Nabil says to his wife to be, listen. And he says in a nice way, Habibti, you know my world, and whatever he says to his wife, that's up to him. Because they're married now, mashallah. Or he's not married just yet, because he has to give the mahar. He can save that sweet talk for later, actually. Nabil, wait, don't say it yet. So he says, I will give 1,000 pounds now, and inshallah, the other 1,000 pounds I'll give it later. She says, not the most convenient of situations, but mashallah, he's such a handsome guy. She shouldn't be saying like that, but she says, okay, khalas. Guys, I'm trying to make it clear at the same time that you can't do all of this, what do you call it, the chatting up, the flirtation, unless you're married, And then having this, private khalwa, private conversations and private connections and communications. This is not appropriate unless you're married, is it? Huh? It's not allowed. Allah said in the Quran, Allah says in the Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, towards the end of Juz 2, علم الله أنكم ستذكرونهن ولكن لا تواعدوهن سرا إلا أن تقولوا قولا معروفا. To make secret promises, secret communications like that is not allowed unless you are conveying an essential piece of information which is do with ma'roof, nahi al-munkar, something essential, a necessary piece of information, okay, which may be a required and important necessary type of communication. Apart from that, this unnecessary communication before marriage is not. Because as we said before at the beginning, some people sing sinifana, we say the sinifana is done, the discussions are done, the mandi is done, so therefore now we are married. No, until the nikah is done, until you say dotted line, but I don't say dotted line because it's not the dotted line that really matters. What matters is you saying qabool or qabiltuha, and her saying qabiltuhu. Until you've said that, the marriage is not completed. And so going back to our situation, she says, okay, £1,000 is fine, I'll give you £1,000 later. Argument's sake, may Allah preserve you, Nabil. Sorry for giving you guys an example. A month into the situation, Nabil says, oh my goodness me, I don't like this woman no more. So he does istikhara, istishara, I can't be with this woman. May Allah protect you. May Allah give you long life of happiness and enjoyment. Or anyone else, okay, let's say you say anyone specific. He gives a talaq raj'i, whoever, Abdullah gives it. Talaq raj'i. Now she comes and says, listen, mate, you gave me talaq raj'i, you gave me talaq, you owe me mahar. Where do you think you're going? You think you're going to give me half mahar and then run away like that? I want my mahar back. I want the completion of my mahar. Now, this iddah period of talaq raj'i, this iddah period, the 3 months after the marriage, do you know what iddah is first of all? I'm saying iddah. Do you know what iddah is? Okay, not necessarily, could be, but iddah is basically a waiting time that a woman has to wait in the marriage after talaq. How long is it? It could be 90 days. It could be long, depending on how long the hayd is. So how is it measured? It's measured by 3 menstrual cycles. So after the talaq is issued, 3 hayd, 1 hayd, 2 hayd, 3 hayd. That's the iddah. That's according to the Hanafis and the Malikis. Shafi'is and Hanbalis say, not 3 hayd, it's the 3 tuhur. The 3 phases of her going through the days of the month in which she's praying. It's a bit complicated to explain in the English language. And I'll tell you a funny story. The word for this phase is called quru. Qur. Okay? Allah said in the Quran, وَالْمُطَلَّقَاتُ يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ ثَلَاثَةَ قُرُوء with the hamza. Which means that the women have to wait for 3 quru, 3 quru before the marriage is finished and they can marry again. So one hafiz is reciting in salah and he makes a mistake, but he makes a severe mistake. Instead of saying quru, guess what he says? He says qurun. Quru means 3 months. Qurun means 300 years. The woman has to wait for 300 years before she gets married again. It's a disastrous mistake. It's too much. It's so funny, subhanAllah. So iddah is the waiting period after the marriage in which the marriage is still connected and the woman has to wait in that time before she gets married again. So now, what we're saying is, going back to the mahar situation, you said £1,000 now, £1,000 later. She says, listen, you gave me talaq. You owe me £1,000 too. I want it right now. Hand it over. Because the marriage is finished. The guy says, hold on. Hold on, wait. He says, wait. Yes, I do owe you £1,000. I'm not going to deny that. But it's not wajib just yet because our marriage is still connected. When the marriage comes to an actual end, which is at the end of the iddah, then it becomes wajib on that day. Does that make sense? So that's the 4th point of raj'i talaq. So the first was that you can return your marriage with saying or with action. Second point was that it is possible for another talaq to occur because only one raj'i talaq, isn't it? One. You have 3 talaqs in your account. But the third one you shouldn't really count it because the third one is finished. You can't go back to it again. So you really have just 2 chances. The third one is khalas, it's finished. There's no effect afterwards. It's separation. That's why at-talaqu marratan. Talaq is 2 times. The third one is finished, disconnection, instant disconnection.
No reversible?
Third talaq is not. Third talaq is not. That's what Allah said in the Quran. فَإِن طَلَّقَهَا فَلَا تَحِلُّ لَهُ مِن بَعْدُ حَتَّى تَنْكِحَ زَوْجًا غَيْرَهُ. If after third talaq, then there is no reverse unless she gets married again. حَتَّى تَنْكِحَ زَوْجًا غَيْرَهُ. No, there has to be a separate marriage, and then that has to end naturally. Not muhallil and muhallil lahu, the halala, halala. They even done a BBC documentary on halala. Don't go and watch it. I know some of you might do, but don't. I haven't watched it myself, but I know there is one called halala, because apparently somewhere up north in the UK they do all of these weird contracts and they think it's fine. Okay, Allah knows their intentions. The third point was that she is still your wife, so she inherits from you if she dies in that phase. Fourth point was, because she is still your wife, the other half of the mahar is you should pay it, but it's not actually technically legally wajib unless you separate, because that's when the time frame of you paying back is ended, isn't it? If you say I'll pay you later without specifying a time, then that means as long as she's your wife, you can pay her at any time in that time. But when the time frame ends and you have no more time left, that means it becomes wajib. So for example, if a landlord says, I want my rent by the end of the month, that means you can pay on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 20th, 25th, any days. But when is the last time? On the 30th or the 31st. You can't go beyond that. So in a similar way, the mu'ajjal mahar, the deferred mahar, will become wajib when the iddah is finished. Now, technically, because your wife is still your wife in the raj'i talaq, she's still your wife, do you have to spend on her? Do you have to buy her clothes and her food? Of course you have to. Because like we said, she is technically still your wife. It's a revocable, reversible talaq. So the base of your marriage is still connected. Though you've chucked an attack onto your marriage, trying to separate it, trying to sever it, but its implication and effect is not fully done, it's not completely broken until the iddah phase is finished. So therefore she has full rights to her nafaqah, to her spending on her food, on her clothes, and her medicine, and her children of course as well. That's it. I'm not going to say anything else today. Just understand one thing. What is a talaq raj'i? Talaq raj'i, even though talaq is not desired, is the best of all talaqs, because it's a talaq in which you can come back from. And it's a talaq in which the marriage is still connected, and you can easily retain and go back to it. So, shabab, before you get crazy and say, I give you talaq 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Some guy says, I give you talaq 1,000,000 times. He doesn't even own 1,000,000 talaqs. He only owns 2 and 3 talaqs. I give you 1,000,000 talaq. It's a crazy guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So before you go and finish off your marriage like that, take it easy. Wahda wahda. Take it slow. Okay? If you must decide to give talaq, then even then, because some of us are so arrogant and so egotistic that you think, oh, I've made my decision, and that's it. My decision is irrevocable. Who are you? You're just a person, you're a human being. Your mind is working in different ways. You're emotional right now, your chemicals are all in your brain. You think you're on top of the world, you know everything. Maybe when you calm down after 2 or 3 hours, 2 or 3 days, you'll regret your decision. So take it easy, ya habib. Take it slow. Calm down, go to your room, rest yourself, pray some tahajjud, pray some salah, do some wudu, do some ghusl, pray, reconnect, revitalize, refreshen. If you must decide to give talaq, then do it in a calculated, calm way. Look at how Allah arranged it. Even if talaq must happen, then it must happen not in the hayd. So that means what? It's planned. Don't come and say, oh, I was angry, I was emotional, so I gave it. Then that's you, you're a silly person for doing that. Allah made you the leader of the household with responsibility, that you are emotionally stable. You're not the one that's going through hayd every month, are you? You're not going through the 7 days of menstrual bleeding. So why are you emotional for? Be calm and composed. And that's why the leadership has been given to you in the household, because you are supposed to remain calm and composed. So don't become, oh, I got emotional. I got so angry. Oh, I never had my coffee in the morning, so I was a bit moody. No, none of that is allowed. Okay? I hope you don't misunderstand anything I've said. Okay? I hope it, because I'm trying to, because someone says, oh, this guy is trying to promote talaq. Yeah, are you crazy or something? I'm not trying to promote talaq. I'm trying to explain that talaq is not desired. But if you must, then this is the easiest form of talaq which is repairable. Other types of talaq which are ba'in, irrevocable, severe talaqs, which might be 2 times or 3 times or even once but with severe language, these are not the kind of talaqs that anyone wants to get involved in. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to everyone? Now what do you have? Do you have any questions? Yes, sir.
Now you said, say the guy gives the first talaq,
Yeah.
but he wants to make amends. But say, can she reject making amends? Does it make sense?
That's a good one. That's a good question. So, if he wants to make amends, but she doesn't want to make amends, then because the marriage is still valid, it doesn't matter what she says. Unless she takes him to court for khula. If it's a khula, you know what khula is? Khula is when she wants the separation. And she goes to a court, and the court says, okay, khula done. That kind of divorce is not revocable. Why? Because she spent money on it. She gave you back your mahar. She went through the formal procedure of going to the court. She went through the legislation and the legal procedure. So now, she went through all of that, and now you're going to say, no, I want to go back to you, and then you're going to reverse your talaq. That's not fair. So if it's a raj'i talaq, which is coming from the man, and if it's a raj'i talaq, a reversible one, then she can't obstruct that. But if she goes through the khula' way, then khalas, the marriage is already separated. Yes, Haji sir.
In one time, to pay that three talaq, the man say, I give you 3 talaq together.
Yes, giving 3 talaqs in one moment, in one phrase, there's a difference of opinion on the topic. There is a difference of opinion on the topic. Majority of the scholars say that these 3 talaqs will be falling as 3. But there is another opinion that says 3 talaq at the time of the Prophet ﷺ used to be counted as 1 talaq. Even though that changed afterwards, they say, the second opinion states, which are reliable scholars, that these 3 talaqs, if it's in one moment, talaq, 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 like that. Okay? Talaq, 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 like that. He thinks he's shooting guns again. The pistols in his guns, yeah?
1 talaq, 2 talaq, 3.
No, there's a difference of opinion about saying 1, 2, 3. If he counts 1, 2, 3, then there's a problem. But let's summarize it like this. Giving 10 talaq in one phrase, in one moment, according to the stronger, more famous opinion, is 3 talaqs. But there is a secondary opinion that says this counts as 1 talaq. And that's the opinion that a lot of fatwa councils are using today to save marriages. But for that, if you want that opinion, you have to go to a mufti. That's not the default. The default is the jamhur. But if you say, I've got exceptional circumstance because, I've got depression, I've got this, I've got that. If the marriage separates and kids are going to become homeless, you have to go to a mufti. Don't come to me. Or you can come to me, I can guide you. But go to a Sharia council ideally. Does that make sense? So the default is if you say 3 talaqs in one go, it counts as 3 talaqs. I'm not making this up. This is the official default position. But if you want a special rule, which is the second opinion, to be counted for you, then go to a mufti and go to a Sharia council. And inshallah, hopefully I'm optimistic that they will say it counts as 1 talaq. But this is not the norm. We don't want to promote this. We don't want to normalize this. Otherwise, everyone's going to say 3 talaq, and the next day they go, oh, it's actually just 1 talaq. Does that make sense? If you make that the normalized, then it becomes situation is very, very difficult.
Sorry, again. The said 1 talaq far away, maybe 3 months ago, then 2 talaq, then 3 talaq. Does it count like that, or just...
No. Even if 1 talaq is 10 years ago, another one 10 years later, is still counting together. No, yeah. So if you say, for example, and he gave 1 talaq 10 years ago, and then another one 10 years later, that's 1, that's 2. Another 10 years later, he gives 3, that's 3. Because your talaqs are in that marriage, not in that 1 year, or in that 1 day. You don't get 3 talaq allowance per day, or 3 talaq allowance per month. This is not some sort of a benefit or some sort of salary. You get 3 talaqs per marriage only, no more. So be careful. Yeah.
It's come a lot of people from villages. So some people say if there is a witness for the other talaqs or present talaqs, so then it's...
There is no witness needed. This is false. No. There is nowhere in Islam requiring for talaq to have witness. No at all, not at all. There is nowhere in the Quran and the Sunnah where you'll find that you need witness for talaq. You need witness for marriage. There is no witness needed for talaq. Yes, nowadays you need to get a document signed because otherwise the next wife's not going to marry you. Or she might come back to you 10 years later and say, I want some of that money that you made in your business now because we're still technically married. So for that you might want a document, and for that you might need a legal signing at that moment when you're signing that document. But technically from an Islamic perspective, there is nowhere in the Quran where Allah states or the Rasul states that you need witnesses for talaq. So be careful. What does that mean? Does that mean, oh, party, celebrate? No, it means be careful, young man. Be careful, brother, because there's nothing going to hold you back. It's just you against you. You're the one that's going to suffer. It's your family that's going to suffer. It's your progeny that's going to suffer at the end of it. It's your children that are going to suffer. So hold yourself to account. Just because I said there's no witness, it doesn't mean, oh, no witness did it, so I can just make anything up. Allah is witness. Allah is witness. Oh, I gave talaq, but no one knows, no witness, so I'm going to pretend like I'm still married. Yeah, you can do the same thing. You can go and pretend like you're married to a woman, and you can become in zina. So who are you cheating? You're cheating yourself. So in summary, there is no requirement from the Sharia to have witnesses for divorce. There is, however, requirement, wajib, mandatory from the rukun, from the pillars of the nikah, is that you have 2 witnesses. Yes. Any other questions?
After you divorce the 3rd time, during her iddah period, obviously as she's not your wife anymore, do you still need to take care of her financial needs?
No. So after the 3rd talaq, because she's married is finished now, there's no repairing, there is no revoking, there is no going back, then she is no longer your wife. Even in the iddah period. Okay? What that means is, she won't inherit from you, but your delayed, deferred mahar will become now. Pay up. So because all of the rules of ending will become applicable on the spot. Ya akhi, ya brothers and sisters, please don't take yourself to this situation. Study properly so that you can avoid the situation. Because wallah, it's not nice. I see people, I talk to people, I advise people. In my 7 years of being imam, I must have dealt with at least maybe more than 50 cases. Subhanallah. And this is just me, I'm just the individual imam. I'm not even a Sharia counsel. The Sharia counsel inundated daily, calls after calls, emails after emails. Divorce, separate, khula', talaq. Oh my goodness me. It's like a wave of talaqs, and it's increasing by day. This shouldn't be the case. Shouldn't be the case. So our learning of masail of talaq is to avoid it. And our learning of masail of nikah is not to avoid it. It's to engage in it. Nikah you study to go and do. Talaq you go and study to not do. Does that make sense? Jazakumullah khair. Any other questions? Yes, brother.
So, as you said, divorce rates are really high and it's increasing, I think, right? So, what would your advice be for us those who aren't married and don't have that in the back of our mind?
Nah, khalas. Don't let that hold you back. If you are scared about divorce, don't let that hold you. Because we can't. Prophet ﷺ doesn't like. Prophet ﷺ has told us in many hadith that his negative pessimism is not from Islam. Okay, we have to be optimistic. We have to hope for the best. Inshallah, if I do things correct, and to be honest, most marriages are still holding. That's the truth. There are a lot of divorces, but most marriages, especially in Muslim societies, are still holding. Maybe in non-Muslim societies it's more, but in Muslim societies, marriages hold. Mostly. There's a high percentage of it. So inshallah, don't be scared. Have tawakkul, have reliance, have dua, make yourself, all the right things you need to do, inshallah, that we spoke about before as well. Try to ensure of that, and inshallah, you'll be fine. Okay? Yes, ya akhi.
No, it just made me think of a situation. If the brother wants to get married, obviously they get married Islamically, they've done the nikah, but now he doesn't want to get married on paper. Can she use this as a base of khula'? No.
You're asking some technical questions, man. She can ask for khula' almost with no base if she wants. But she will have financial implications. I shouldn't be saying this on the screen, but I have to be honest, because it's educational. But you don't stand in a khutbah and say, oh sisters, you can go and get khula' for no reason whatsoever. Oh brothers, you can give talaq for no reason whatsoever. We don't encourage that, of course. But technically speaking, she can say that I don't want to remain in this marriage. What's your reason? Because X, Y, and Z. If she has a good reason, And then it might not be khula, it might be fasakh, it might be separation without any financial implication. For example, he never spends any money on me. For example, he's always away, never gives any time to me. For example, he's never ever available for me. And now, this is not khula anymore. This is fasakh. This is, the judge will say, you're being unfair to her, you don't deserve her, finish. She's not going to give you your money back as well. Because you're the one that's wronging her. Does that make sense, inshallah, yeah? Jazakumullah khair. Any other questions? If not, then we'll wrap it up here, bi'idhnillah. Okay. Subhanakallahumma ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.